Alright, so today we're going to do something different. Instead of having the audio come through, I decided I would try a voiceover. And so this is the entire process of me making an ash log into rough bowl blanks. And so the first thing I do is saw the log in half. And normally I would do this in the other direction with the log rotated 90 degrees, so I was cutting with the grain of the wood so I could get those nice noodle shavings. But unfortunately, due to the double crotch of this log, I had to cut it the other way. And so once I've got it in half, I'm going to draw a circle onto it and knock the corners off so I can take this piece right up to the lathe, screw a faceplate on. I'm going to center that up using my tape measure, and then drive in a bunch of these 2.5-inch stainless steel machine screws. And so there will be 12 in total driven into this, really to make sure that this bowl is going nowhere while we have it. And so once that happens, it gets mounted on the lathe and then turned. And the process for this is pretty rough. I do wear a respirator and a face shield when turning almost all the time, but especially when I'm doing greenwood like this, because that first outer layer is going to be bark, and in that bark you've got dirt and grime and little bits of rocks and occasionally small bugs. And so this allows me to get all of that and make sure I can get it off the blank without, hurting myself. And again, turning is a pretty simple process when you're doing rough outs. The wood's pretty soft, and especially on a big lathe like this, you can get the RPMs up pretty fast, which makes turning relatively simple. And you can see we're just taking simple cuts here. Again, nothing too complex, just trying to get it down to a rough cylinder so that it is easier to profile. Again, the more in round, the less out of balance a piece is, the higher the RPMs can go. And the higher the RPMs, the faster you can make shaping. Again, more cuts, more speed. So we're just simply roughing off, trying to take off all those corners. Again, it's a rough octagon when it goes on the lathe. And the whole point of this initial shaping, especially in these last two scenes, is really trying to get it into a cylinder so that we can start to figure out what shape it's going to have. And again, that is a rough shape because this is a rough out bowl. And here you can see footage is sped up pretty fast, but you can see once it's a cylinder, the shape for the bowl comes in rather quickly. And again, a lot of that is dictated by the shape of the log and can we get all of the bark off. But once the bark is fully taken off, you just have to take it, get a nice round shape, and then pull it off the lathe. And now that it's pulled off the lathe, we can pull out those screws. And again, there are 12 of those in there. That bowl is going nowhere. Probably a little overkill on a bowl of this size, but another 30 seconds, minute on either end to put those extra screws in there really ensures that it's never going to come off. It's not going to come flying back at me. And once we have that off, putting in my big Vic Mark chuck. This has a set of 5-inch jaws, which grab that tenon on the bottom really strong, get a nice quick grip. And I always like to do both sets of keys. Again, it takes another half turn in that other one, but it really ensures that you get that good lock up and that the bowl won't go anywhere. And so now we've got it turned around. Now it's just time to hollow it out. So again, very simple process. I always start by taking a few facing cuts just to get the top perfectly flat. And then once I have those facing cuts made, I will come in with a ruler and a Sharpie and use that so that I know how big my inner blank is going to be. You can see that here. Allows me to give my wall thickness. And I try and keep my wall thickness about 10%. So this was an 11-inch bowl, and so it's a just over probably about 1 1/4 inch wall thickness the whole way down. And here you got some slow-mo just to see how thin those curls are coming off, how nice the shavings coming off a bowl are. And in a rough out like this, it doesn't matter. That last pass needs to be pretty nice because it's going to dry that way. You want to have a nice consistent finish, but as you're hollowing out, it doesn't really matter how nice the cuts are. But I find greenwood cuts gorgeously, but also it really allows you to practice how good you're cutting, to really get that bevel rub, to really hone your skills. And in a scenario where these walls are thicker than they need to be already, so I have the space to practice and really get those nice wispy shavings. And then when I do my finished pieces, I've got that practice. And again, that's slow-mo. This is sped up. You can really, with hollowing a bowl, you really can practice and get that perfect cut. And here we're just finishing off the rim, getting a nice flat rim, and then one final cut on the bottom. Again, doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm trying for perfection because again, this is practice. Plenty of room, plenty of mistake. And again, if the bowl gets wasted here, it's unfortunate, but it's, you know, not finished. On a finished piece, can't afford to mess it up. And so this allows me to practice for those finished pieces so that when they are on the lathe, I do not have to worry. And now that the whole piece is finished, it's time to log it. And so this is one of the things I do. I don't turn thousands of green bowls at a time. And so I do keep a log of every single one. So I measure how wide each bowl is and what material it is. And then I write a number on the bottom that corresponds to that logbook. And that allows me to know exactly when each piece was turned, how big it is, and what material it is. So I can go back and I can see, oh, this was a piece of wood, where I got it from, and what it is. And when I want to make a finished piece, or if I'm making a piece for someone, I can go, oh, I have a piece of cherry. It's about 1.5 years old. It's 14 inches in diameter. Boom, I can grab it right off the shelf. And all these pieces are coated in Anchor Seal, which is a wax emulsion paint. Seals up the grain and really slows down the drying process. So it will take this piece about 1 year, 1.5 years to fully dry out. But when I come back to it, it'll be nice and stable, no rot, no issues, perfect and ready to go. And so as I finish up this painting, seal the top up, and this piece now is going onto the rack, and it will dry for 1 year.